to episode 20 of the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today, my guests are Rachael Gander and Kim Werker. Rachael is a sewist, mom, wife, designer, blogger, and fabric enthusiast who learned to sew alongside her mom, but lost interest in the craft until her early 20s. She's spent the last 15 years making up for lost time experimenting with modern quilting, accessories and garment sewing, pattern design, hand-printed fabric, and textile design. Rachael's original patterns feature classic silhouettes with a modern twist that incorporates clever details and practical techniques. Rachael blogs at imaginats.com. Rachael Gander, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Kim Werker is an editor and speaker who tries to make something every day, and sometimes that something is ugly on purpose. Through Mighty Ugly, she helps people confront their creative demons so they can make more stuff or even make great stuff. Her new book, Make It Mighty Ugly, will come out this fall. Day to day, Kim is a freelance editor, working with self-publishers to make their ebooks or craft patterns better organized, more clearly written, and generally polished. This spring, she's been revisiting a long dormant part of her career, crochet. Her new crochet class with Craftsy will launch in the early summer. Never content, obviously, to do only one kind of thing, Kim has worked hard to accept that she just needs to do a bunch of different things, all while working from home in Vancouver, Canada, with an aging mutt asleep in the next room. Kim Werker, welcome.
Thanks, Abby.
It's great to have both of you here. I'm really excited to talk with you. So, Rachael, we're going to start with you. You recently did an Indiegogo campaign to help you fund a line of print patterns. Yeah. What was your goal with the campaign, and how is the project coming along?
Well, my goal with the campaign was to raise at least some portion of the amount of money it would take to have my, at the time, 5 existing garment patterns taken to print. And really, it was one of those things where I was already going to do it. So I didn't want to do one of those fundings where you have to get all the money or you get nothing. So I figured that way people could, either just throw in some money to support it or get the perks. You can pre-order a pattern in essence. And just basically sell some of them ahead of time in a way. So that was kind of the idea behind it.
And how is it coming along? So when did the campaign end, and what's happened since then?
So the campaign ran for the month of February. So it's been over for a little bit now. After it ended, I spent a lot of time staring at file names on my computer, thinking about how I needed to then translate my PDF files into a whole different size and format for the printing. And then at some point about a month ago, I realized that was not going to magically have done itself one morning when I woke up. So I actually ended up having the printer, who Palmer Printing is doing all of the actual pattern, the booklets and the pattern pieces and all that printing. So they actually then also did for me all of the graphics, the digital work as far as to make the PDF patterns into the printed patterns, which was an unbelievably wonderful thing. Really allowed me to say, okay, this can all get worked on and I can start working on something else. So at this point, the original 5 patterns are all completely ready to print. I've proofed the paper patterns. And what did happen was that I designed 2 additional patterns in the meantime that have just been released. And so I'm under the gun getting all of those files to them so I can sneak patterns 6 and 7 into the first print run as well.
Okay, wait. So 2 questions. First,
yes.
What is the name of this printer? Palmer?
Palmer, yes.
Okay. And is this something that's local to you or something you found online?
I actually found it from recommendation. It was recommended by a few people. I know that Ray from Made by Ray uses them, and also April Rhodes. And I actually, it's funny because a year ago, so quilt market is this month. A year ago, when I went to my first quilt market, one of my big goals there was I'm going to go to the Palmer booth and talk to them. And this seems like a terrifying thing to do, right? So I went and I talked to them, and basically they said, yes, that's lovely. Here's some paperwork, and, give us a call when you get home. And so then I sat on that paperwork and did nothing about it for a very long time. Until for my husband, I had been sitting on it for so long, and then I thought maybe I needed some help. So then he started emailing me and saying, hey, did you call Palmer yet? So finally I did. Isn't that lovely?
That's what husbands are for.
I know. And I said, I know that I want to do this. I'm just scared to death. So if I don't make the phone call, I know nothing will happen. So we're good, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. So, procrastination is most often fear, at least for me, I guess. So, so finally when I called, they have a whole department that handles sewing patterns specifically, and they are so good. They are just so good. And Michelle is the rep, I guess, that handles most of the customer service for the sewing patterns, and she's just fabulous. I can't say enough good things about them. The prices are great. The service is great. The amount of stuff they'll do is basically you go to them and say, here's what I have now. Here's what I want the end product to be. And they say, okay, we can do everything to get you there. We can do part of it. What do you feel comfortable doing? What do you not want to do? How much do you want to spend? Is there something you could do instead of us doing that would save you a little money? That kind of stuff. Yeah,
that was my next question. So were your PDFs photos, or were they illustrations made in Illustrator?
Well, the first 3 patterns I did were photos, and I will tell you, that's a good question, because that's one of the things that held me up for a long time in taking everything from the PDF 8.5 by 11 format to the smaller printed size format, is that I thought, well, I have to make line drawings of every one of these steps. And so that was one of the things I talked to Michelle about when I had asked them about doing the graphics. And she said, well, let's see what the pictures look like, printed in black and white. Sometimes if the contrast is good enough, she said, they'll look fine. But if they don't, then we'll cross that bridge. Why do it before we know we have to? So we ended up doing the first 3 patterns with the photos. And I think that they're clear. I've done illustrations for the last 4 patterns, because it's just as easy, honestly, for me to do it that way than to take all the photos of the step-by-step. So I might as well just do it that way. But I don't need to go back and redo the original ones. So that felt like a win.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes when you actually just make those phone calls and ask the right questions, it turns out that it's not as horrible as, in your mind. I feel like in my mind it's always so big.
Yes.
This is going to be so big that I can't even begin. But then, of course, other people are doing it. It can't be that horrible. Yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations to you. That sounds so exciting. So are you going to market?
I am going to market, and I'm excited. It's such a whirlwind, but the greatest fabric-fueled whirlwind.
Yeah.
But I'm going, and hopefully I'm hoping to the last time I went, I didn't really have a specific focus, I guess. I just felt like I was supposed to go. And so I went, and I made a lot of great connections, and a lot of work and good things have come out of it. I do feel a little more focused this time, because I definitely want to get out the word about the printed patterns, and I'll definitely be selling them through some distributors, but it's also nice to be able to sell direct to the shops where you can, because honestly, there's just a whole 30% you don't lose. So
right. That's right. Exactly. Well, that's super exciting. I think that's fantastic. And in your your pattern shop, you also sell embroidery patterns, and those are not going to be print patterns, at least for now. I'm assuming those are still in PDF.
Yeah, those are still PDF. I have done before some, like I just made myself like little kits, embroidery kits for some of like a superhero Valentine pattern. And that's one of those things I thought about doing again. It's just kind of time intensive, so it hasn't made it to that side of the list of things that are actually going to get done yet.
Okay. And then you also sell fabric. So I'm imagining that, for me, people ask me all the time, actually, I just had a request this morning from somebody who said, who wants kits for my patterns. And I always just sort of feel like in order to move in that direction, I would need storage space because I'm going to need to order bolts, and I don't have space. I mean, I barely have space for what I do now, realistically. So I'm imagining that you must have had to sort of make a shift when you started to sell yardage.
Well, so the thing is that we have a closet upstairs that's, I guess you could say it's a walk-in closet. I mean, it's a very small walk-in closet, basically, that at some point had games and some linens, and over the last 2 years has slowly become, we can stick this stack of board games in the basement, or maybe we just don't need these. So, last weekend we made the final shift and took everything that's not fabric related out of the closet because I just got 30 bolts from Kaufman in this week. So definitely needed some space. And I have about 200 yards of fabric that I need to destash because it's all sitting in a pile. And I'm just never going to sew with all of it. But all of that is to say that I don't technically have what I would call enough space for the amount of fabric I have, but we make it work. Kind of at my limit a little bit, so we'll see.
Yeah, I imagine that would be a lot considering the new order that just came in. So, yeah. I mean, I work out of our bedroom, and so, I mean, it's insane because I have studio lights and a photography setup up there, and I have all my fabric, I have all the books, all the tools, a desk, sewing machine, ironing board, and our bed. So it's like we basically just sleep in the corner, and the rest of it is my studio. But we don't have any other space for me. Like, we don't have a finished basement. There isn't any other space. So really, like, I'm sort of bursting at the seams as it is. So, yeah, it's hard to kind of dream bigger when you don't have all the space you need. But yeah, but good for you for wedging it into the closet space that you do have. That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, well, I also did. For a while, had all of the stuff in the bedroom too, and then probably about 6 months ago, I kind of took over the living room and dining room. So. There's still room to function as a living room and dining room, but dotted through them are, my ironing board and my desk and the computer and everything. So I feel like I have a lot of space, which is nice. I mean, me and my husband, we have 2 girls. So, we don't take up a ton of space. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of living that happens in the living room. I don't know. It's mostly sewing now. So.
As it should be. So. Okay, super. So, Kim, let's turn to you. So, you worked as a crochet designer for many years, and then more recently, you've been working on this big ongoing project, Mighty Ugly, helping people confront their feelings of self-doubt that hamper their creativity. So what is the sort of overarching concept behind Mighty Ugly, and how do you make it come to life for people?
It's a big question. I never worked as a crochet designer.
Okay.
I hate designing crochet.
Oh.
I love working with crochet designers, so I always worked editorially in crochet, which is just something to mention.
So when you were at I know you worked at Interweave. So what did you do there?
I was the editor of Interweave Crochet magazine for a couple of years, between the end of 2006 to the end of 2008.
Okay.
And I got there through this sort of trajectory of online magazine creation and editing, and the crochet books that I've written have either been sort of reference books or multi-contributor books where I've worked with a lot of other designers. That's my favorite thing, is to collaborate with designers. But I find design itself to be tedious and utterly unenjoyable.
That is so interesting. Wow. Okay.
I think it's kind of why I ended up sort of moving fairly quickly through the ranks in publishing, because nobody wants to do what I actually really wanted to do, and I don't want to do what everyone else wants to do. So it worked out really nicely.
Yeah.
In that regard. So it was actually my career in editing that led directly to sort of the freelance work I do now in editing. But Mighty Ugly is truly my kind of love of the moment and of the last few years. And the concept behind Mighty Ugly is that, like Rachel referred to earlier, procrastination for her being very tightly associated with fear. I think we all have, we all experience creative demons that are very similar. And though the roots of them might be different for each of us, we all procrastinate sometimes. We all feel blocked. We all fear failure. We doubt ourselves. And so Mighty Ugly stems from an experience I had that actually also has its roots in my crochet career. So when I was working a lot in crochet, I was... at the time, I didn't know that people referred to themselves this way, but I was, I guess, a fearless crocheter. I was not intimidated by trying new things. And it was a very rude awakening to me to get more and more involved in the crochet industry, which led me to talk to lots and lots and lots of crocheters, and to discover that a lot of people feel a very common discomfort about trying new things, even if they have a lot of skills and expertise. And I was constantly feeling like, dude, it's yarn. Like, so you screw it up. That's how you learn. You rip it out. It's not even a waste of yarn. It's not even like paper or fabric that if you cut it wrong, you can't use it for what you intended to use it for. With yarn, you can just rip it out, wind it back up again and start again. And I never was able to relate to this ubiquitous discomfort that I always seem to encounter when I talk to crocheters about trying new things and being adventurous. And then one day I felt that fear. It wasn't about crochet. It was about sewing, of all things. And Abby, you might be delighted to know that it was about sewing a doll.
Aww.
Yeah. I was at a friend's birthday party. My friend Ian had a birthday party. It was a crafty birthday party. And he had fabric around and booze and snacks and stuff. And I found this fabric that I absolutely loved because it was so ugly. And I was like, this has to be made into something, and I think this has to be made into a doll. And at the time, I had no idea how to sew. I didn't know how to sew dolls. I didn't know anything about sewing techniques. And I don't think at the time that I had used a sewing machine, in years, and unskillfully at that. And so I sat with this fabric and felt all of the things that people had been telling me they felt when I was talking to them about crochet, and baffled about why they were not trying new things. And I felt intimidated. I felt like a fraud. Like I was this person who worked in the crafts industry sitting at this party, not knowing how to craft something, right? And I felt, that I was going to be found out. And in the end, I was like, I love this fabric because it's hideous. So I'm just going to make this doll as ugly as I possibly can. And suddenly, all of the discomfort, dissolved. It went away. And I, approached making that doll with an abandon I hadn't felt since I was a child, right? Where it didn't matter that I didn't know what I was doing, and it didn't matter that it looked awful, because that was my intent, and I lost myself in it. I don't remember anything else about the party, but making this doll and how free I felt. And that idea stuck with me for a long time, until eventually I created Mighty Ugly, because I was like, I think everybody in the world, no matter what they do, whether they're crafters or artists or makers or accountants or engineers or lawyers, I think we all could benefit from this shift in perspective that comes with making something ugly on purpose.
Okay. So now that you have this really great kernel of an idea, so how do you make that happen for people?
Well, okay, so I do several things. I do workshops. And I do those locally. I do them at big events. I do them at conferences. And I do two kinds of different workshops. One is a hands-on craft workshop. I have a cabinet. I was listening to you guys talk about storage issues, and I work from home as well, and my office/studio is also our guest room. So I'm in a constant state of making it a disaster and then frantically having to clean it up when people come to visit, and which is happening in 2 days. So I'm like listening to you guys talk about this, staring at the mess in my studio going, oh God, I have 2 days to contain it all. But I have like an IKEA PAX cabinet in my studio that's filled with scraps of stuff that I've collected, that my crafty friends have given me, and stuff that I save from the recycling bin. So that, and I pack them all up into a kit, and I go and lead workshops about making something ugly on purpose. And I use scraps and discarded materials because you can't, in good conscience, ask someone to make something ugly out of anything that could be perceived as precious. And in my workshops, we talk about what ugly is, and what beautiful is, and what we usually feel when we approach a project, and what goes through our minds, and then how we think about the project when we're working on it. What tends to hang us up? What makes us stuck? What do we feel fear about? And a lot of times I think what we do is we push those negative thoughts out of our minds. We live in this era of like a cult of positive thinking. Like if we acknowledge that we're fearful or that we think about failure, then we're doing it wrong. And I think that's a really unhealthy way to think about anything. I think that for every positive, there's a negative, and they exist in some sort of, tug of war harmony. And so then we make stuff. And people have very different experiences of making something ugly on purpose. Some people have an experience like I did, which is like, gleeful abandon. But more often, I think people feel extraordinary discomfort. They're not comfortable going and setting out to make something that's the kind of thing they usually avoid making at all costs. And that becomes a very rich experience. And I love listening to conversation that happens around the table when I lead a Mighty Ugly workshop, because people start looking at each other going, I don't know, that looks kind of cute, like it's a bad thing. And then the conversation turns to, well, how can you make that less cute and more ugly, which is the opposite of what we usually try to do. And then the other kind of workshop I do are conversation workshops. So they don't involve making per se, but they involve a lot of discussion. And my favorite workshop that's a conversation has to do with business, actually. I taught it last month at the Craftcation Conference in California, and I call it Embracing the Ugly Side of Business. And that's directly associated with these fears and discomforts that we have in our businesses, especially as creatives, when we're usually the only person involved and everything rests on our shoulders. There are things that all of us feel intensely uncomfortable about, and they tend to really hold us back. And like with the act of making something, in the act of running a business, if we actually pay attention to those things, if we name them and explore where they're coming from and explore how we might feel better about them and solve those problems rather than like just shoving them to the back of our minds, we explore how that can help us in our business and help us feel more successful and capable.
And that just loops back around to, Rachel, what you were saying in the beginning about having the name and information from Palmer for a year and not acting on it, and then finally acting on it, and then sort of looking at your PDF patterns and being like, how come they're not making themselves into print patterns? Like, these are some of those things that sort of linger in your mind, and you're like, God, I don't know how to solve that problem. And so, Kim, you're asking people to sort of take those things out and put them on the table and really think about, is there a way to solve these things and to move forward?
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of times, I wrote a blog post about this recently. One of my favorite things that happens in these workshops is something that I try not to say, but I hope someone in the room says it, which is, I hired someone, to do something. And I don't believe, I'm not saying that because I think that throwing money at a problem is the answer, all the time, but I think that especially as a business person, it often is, right? Rachel's answer was,
oh my God. Yeah.
Right? It was.
Here's the other thing I did recently is a friend of mine who's an amazing friend, but also very talented quilter and with internet stuff, redid my website. And then I said, you know what? Like, this whole experience of you doing my website for me, like, I just really enjoyed in that, like, I got to talk about what I wanted something to be, and you helped me make that happen. And I can't really let go of you in that capacity. So she still, and we were friends anyway, but I just pay her an hourly rate for doing work on my site. And so when WordPress needs an update, I email her and say, hey, like, help. And I'm going to tell you what, it is one of the greatest darn things ever.
Oh my gosh, I am all in favor of delegating and hiring somebody to help you when it comes to this sort of thing. It's unbelievable. And I think as DIYers, right? Like, and we are, all three of us are self-employed, we work from home, and we are in the crafts industry. So you do really feel like this is my business and I need to do everything from the accounting to cutting the fabric to customer service to maintaining the website, building the shop, everything. And even if I sort of suck at those things or I don't like doing some of them, I have to do all of them, even if the product is sort of subpar in the end and it could have been better. And more recently, I've realized, like, nope, actually, I don't have to do all of those things, and it doesn't cost all that much money. And in fact, I might make more money if I allow somebody else to do them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So I'm sorry, I'm totally interrupting you today, but I think that you guys will appreciate this. And if I tell you this now, I don't have to write the blog post that's been sitting in drafts. Because the words to type aren't really there. It's more like a conversation. But so this lady, Buffy Joshimal, was a contestant on Project Runway. And I was working in a fabric store here in Cincinnati the season she was on. And we interviewed most of the contestants. And so I had interviewed her. And then we talked recently because she put out a book. And she's just kind of hilarious. But she spends most of her time in Dubai, but was in New York City for the book launch. And she was telling me something really fascinating, which was that in New York, which is like her version of, the States. So I don't know. New York to me isn't like the whole United States, but whatever. People all really need to like do everything themselves. There's like a culture of busyness and of importance of doing things yourself. But she said that in Dubai, it's very different. One, she thinks just because the culture has been different for so long, but you can pay people to do things for you at much cheaper rates, which is part of it. But, she said people that aren't well-to-do, have people do things for them because that's just what you do. You like outsource everything. And I just thought, what a fascinating cultural difference like this. And like, how does that affect the speed of the culture, or your busyness or your ability to let things go, sort of? I feel like there's a bigger thing to explore there.
Yeah. And it also, and I know all three of us are moms too, I do think it also relates back to raising children too, and coming to the realization that it's actually a good thing to have more than just you and your spouse involved in this. Like, other people can do this and should help you do this.
Yeah. That was like my other blog post recently that I found so cathartic to write, which was how daycare changed everything for me. Ooh. Like, right? I was like, changed everything for me.
Yeah. I mean, I do think I do want to write about that at some point because it's sort of tricky because everybody's situation is different and financial situation is different and there's so many variables. So I guess you can only really write from your own personal experience. But I do feel like it does relate to that as well, to running a business and running a household and raising children. So, okay, super, guys. So I want to dig into these lists. Rachel and Kim and I have all gathered lists of things that we're recommending right now. And if it's okay with you guys, I think we're going to dig in.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, cool. So Rachel, we're going to start with you actually. And you wanted to talk about a food thing. So this is, I don't know if I'm saying it right, piada, Italian street food.
So, okay, I'm a little obsessed. So we, we try to eat super healthy and stuff. And We like grow a bunch of our own food and all that jazz. But there's something really great about a super like on the verge of fast food place. And so Piata is like Italian version of Chipotle. Kind of, that's the best way I can explain it. So you go in and you can pick like these wrap sandwiches or a bowl of pasta, and you pick what meat you want, what kind of sauces you want, which is all lovely. Okay. So it's good, whatever. But then at the end, you have the option to get this dessert, which they call cannoli chips, which are basically tiny little cannoli shells with like the cannoli filling in a little container to dip it in.
Oh my God.
Right?
Amazing. Yes.
So good.
Yeah. Well, I live in Boston, and we have Mike's Pastry in the North End, which is delicious cannolis. So, I have to stay away, but
yeah, the Piata ones probably aren't that good,
but that's sort of brilliant.
I'm in the Midwest, so
you take what you can get.
Exactly.
So are they available anywhere? Cause we don't have that chain, here. So is that like you're in Ohio? Is that like in Ohio?
I don't know. A friend of mine in Cleveland found one near her and went. She wasn't quite as smitten as I was, I should say, in all fairness. But I'm not sure what the spread of them is. It's new here, so
okay. So maybe it's coming.
Maybe.
Let's hope it's coming. That sounds good. All right, Kim, you wanted to talk about your GorillaPod tripod. I have a GorillaPod, but I don't think I have the same one that you have. So how do you use yours?
Well, so I just got this particular one the other day. So GorillaPod is a tripod. It's a short tripod, not the kind that stands on the floor. It's maybe about a foot long, and each of the legs is flexible and also kind of rigid. So you can bend the GorillaPod. You can also wrap it around things like banisters or, tree branches or something. So it makes it a really flexible way to hold your camera. And I had a bigger one that will hold my digital SLR that I've had for many years. But I have a new phone, and it didn't fit the little attachment I had. And my phone is my video camera, and I needed to record a short crochet tutorial video actually for Vancouver Mini Maker Faire, because we have this harebrained idea to try to set the Guinness Book of Records record for the greatest number of people simultaneously crocheting, because it's Maker Faire and it's ridiculous, and why not? And I was like tasked with due to my crochet thing with, sort of making a tutorial video so anybody can just help us out, and you don't have to be a crocheter. And so I bought a tinier GorillaPod with an attachment that is sort of like a gripper that just holds onto your phone from like around it. Like I don't have to take my phone out of its case. I don't need to screw my phone into some kind of an attachment that will attach to the tripod. It just kind of grips it and can hold it in any angle. And I got the tripod part too, because it was only like $5 more to get the tripod with it. And it's adorable because it's tinier. And so it'll be easy to like toss in my purse if I ever have to use a tripod on the go. But it was awesome. I recorded the video in like 8 minutes, edited it down, and then I was done. And I'm all about quick and dirty, and it was quick and dirty, and I loved that I had this tiny little tool that was relatively inexpensive that I can now use all the time for something like that.
That's super. I have been known to tape my iPhone to my current tripod with duct tape, which is not advised. I don't advise doing it, but because it doesn't hold the iPhone. Like it
right.
holds my SLR, but it doesn't hold the iPhone. So that's sort of brilliant. I'm going to check it out. And I actually realized now that I forgot to ask you, just since we're on the topic of crochet and this Guinness Book of Records crochet deal, what is your Craftsy crochet class on?
My Craftsy crochet class that'll launch, I think, early in the summer. It's super beginner crochet. And I was really excited and to be asked to teach this class because it's been about 5 years since I have worked in crochet, sort of in a dedicated way. And I had stepped away from it 5 years ago because I was utterly burnt out. I had done like nothing but crochet for 5 years, and I like needed to have other kinds of conversations. And so it was fantastic to come back and focus on the things that I always were so excited about. I always was so excited about with crochet, which are that it's a really fun craft, and it tends to be sort of the underdog to knitting. And that just makes me love it more because I don't, because I, in general, in my worldview, find kind of ridiculous prejudices to be a waste of energy. I don't understand why people are inclined to hate on crochet, but I just see that as an opportunity to be like, like ugly is as ugly makes. Like crochet, you can say that crochet is awful, but only if you make it awful, and it's wonderful if you make it wonderfully. So my class is just basics from like how to make a slip knot to how to make the most basic crochet stitches and how to read a pattern. So I'm excited because I want my students to be able to leave the class feeling capable so that they can kind of embark upon making stuff they really want to make.
No, that's super.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's so good. So I'm kind of a beginner crocheter, so that's totally of interest to me just because from a skills standpoint, but I also totally understand the feeling of rooting for the underdog because I, as you know, design sewing patterns for dolls and toys, which are very much the underdog in the sewing world, and I am like on the mission just to make them a prominent place that they deserve. So
right on.
I totally get that feeling of like, here we go. I love that. All right, so that's super. So the Gorilla Pod, awesome. All right, I wanted to talk about a family card game that we've been really enjoying. So my older kids are 10 and 8 now. I also have a 3-year-old. She doesn't play this game, but my older kids do. And this is a game called Timeline. It's a card game. And basically it's working on the idea of when different things happened in historical time. So you got dealt a hand of cards, and each card has like a picture on it and a little description of what's in the picture. And it doesn't have the date of when that thing happened. It just has the picture. The other side of the card has the date, but you can't see that. So to start, you put a card on the table with the date part face up, and that's kind of the anchor of your timeline for the whole game. And when it's your turn, you have to place one of your cards either before or after the anchor. So you have to decide, was the light bulb invented before glasses were invented or after glasses were invented? So you kind of have a hunch, like, I think it was after. And then you put it down, and then you flip it over, and you see if the date lines up or not. If it does, you get to keep it there and build out the timeline with it. And if it doesn't, you have to discard it and draw a new card. And then it's the next person's turn. So the more cards you end up getting correct, the harder it is because there's so many dates already out in your timeline that when you have to decide, it's a really subtle choice between, was it 1862 or 1865? Like you have to really know time. And it's so interesting because, there's certain things that are very obvious, but a lot of things you are surprised by. It's all kinds of different historical events and inventions and stuff. The pictures and the cards are really sort of beautifully drawn, so they're pretty to look at. There's lots of cards, so you're not going to memorize, these 17 ones, and then the game is kind of dumb because you already know the answer. There's just tons of cards. They come in this really nice little tin box. You can get expansion packs for different themes. So if you're really into timeline and you want to build out your deck, you can do that and keep playing and make it more exciting. So it's a learning game, but it's also funny and fun. And you can play with a lot of different ages. As adults, you kind of, might not want to be too hard for kids, but I think it's a really great game. And, if you homeschool or you just like to do some homeschool type things, I don't homeschool, but we like to do kind of, educational things at home sometimes. So Timeline the game is a good one. And it's also a good birthday gift or holiday gift too. So.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's fun. I can play it with my husband too. Sometimes we play bananagrams and Mancala, after the kids go to bed. So, but Timeline is one of them too. But all right, so Rachel, we're back up to you, and we wanted to talk about. And I just looked this up on Etsy. It looks awesome. The Creative Muster, and they're these tiny picture frames.
Oh yeah, they're so cute. Which reminds me, I need to finish the necklace that I started making with mine. But they're these tiny little frames basically, and there's little embroidery hoops, and they're these tiny little wood, and it comes in 2 pieces. So there's a back that's solid and then a front that has like the hole cut out. So it forms the frame. So you can, you know, put something in between them and glue them together. And I took one and painted all of it like a bright yellow. And then actually it has 5 cutouts in it. And I put a piece of fabric behind it. And then Mod Podged the fabric on the inside. And then, you know, glued the pieces together. And then I put beads on half of it like I was going to make a necklace. And I wonder where it is now. But it's super cute. I need to finish it so I can wear it to market. I'm going to make myself a note. That's how things work around here.
And what I didn't see the tiny embroidery hoops. That's
yeah, they're
cool.
tiny. They're like an inch. Like at the widest, they're an inch. Like you can't embroider in them, she says. Well, you can't embroider in them because the back is solid. Yeah, so that wouldn't really work, I guess. But you could put like a little tiny embroidery in them. And I know I had done a class with Molly from Wild Olive at one point that was like all about embroidery at different scales.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was super cute. So I have like some magnets, I have like teeny tiny embroidery and some like patchwork coasters. So I totally want to do another version of one of her little tiny embroideries and put it in one of those. It'd be great for like a necklace.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah.
That's so cute. And I love the idea too of spraying them. Like you could get neon pink spray paint, spray the frame, spray the back. And that's gorgeous. That's so cool. Yeah.
I like kids make one too. It was interesting, but they just painted like with wild abandon. They painted, so
as they will. Yes. Cool. That's a good craft supply. All right, Kim, you wanted to talk about Pages, so I'm just going to make a confession, which is I got Pages recently and I haven't opened it yet, which is horrible. So tell me about Pages.
So this is like falls into the category of making this list when I was like super in a work headspace and not particularly in a play headspace. I'm like, yeah, all work and no play makes Kim a dull girl. But Pages is the Apple word processor. And it's free. If you have a Mac, you don't have to pay for it anymore, which is pretty awesome. And it doesn't do any of the things that make you want to pull your hair out that Microsoft Word has always done. And so I stopped using Microsoft Word like 10 years ago, and I've used a version of an open source word processor, and I work as an editor, right? So it's important to me. I spend a lot of time in word processing. And the reason I put Pages on my list is that they recently, like only in the last few months, introduced the feature whose absence prevented me from using Pages a lot more in my work, and that feature is track changes. So, Abby, I know you and I have worked together on an editing project. Track changes is what makes the editorial world go round. It's a feature in a word processor that allows either a collaborator or an editor to make changes and notes, put in comments into a file that show up for the other person, not like they show up highlighted so that you can see and you can accept or reject those changes. So as an editor, I use track changes constantly on the files that I'm editing, and then the author that I work with can accept or reject those changes as they see fit. Pages now has this feature, and they do it beautifully. And that means that I can do more of my work in a program I actually enjoy using that's not bloated with menu items that mean nothing. It's not bloated with menus that are poorly organized and I can never find anything. So, Pages is just, and it's a wonderful program just as a writer as well, because it allows you to format things in a very straightforward way. Like I feel like half of my life as a student, back in the day was spent trying to format a Microsoft Word document to look how I wanted it to look, like have the bullets align properly and things that even then seemed like they should have been a no-brainer, but weren't. And so the Pages just does that, and it does it really nicely. So I encourage you to use Pages, Abby, to open it up.
I know. And you can also insert like graphics and images and stuff in a really nice way that, all those annoying parts of Office, of Microsoft Word where the text flows the wrong way and you can't resize the image, you can't move it, you can't drag it and drop it, and it just drives you insane. And Pages, you can do all of that.
Yes, and you can do it without pulling your hair out. Like, if you're going to be creating PDFs, and you're not like a user of Illustrator or those fancy like Adobe page layout programs. And I'm not. I don't have the suite. I don't know how to use it.
I don't either.
I do PDF design in Pages.
Yeah.
Because it allows, like, they have templates that are actually lovely and not garish. And it is really, it's very straightforward. It does what you want it to do, which is really all I can ask for in a solid program that I use all the time.
And I know that I'm a kind of a huge fan of lynda.com for learning new software. Mm-hmm. And I know Pages seems intuitive and you probably don't need it, but I know that lynda.com has Pages classes too. So if you have a subscription there, you can just pop over and watch a couple Pages videos and kind of get started that way. Although I'm sure there's tons on YouTube too. There's great YouTube videos for like every software. So I've learned a bunch from those too. But all right, I'm motivated. I'm gonna try it. It's on my summer to-do list.
Do it. You can call me if your hair pulled. I feel like I want to be like money back guarantee. If you're pulling your hair out, of course it was free,
right?
But I'd be happy to help you out.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I'm also feeling so. Kim edited, in full disclosure, Kim edited my my ebook, which is The Insider's Guide to Starting an Online Sewing Pattern Business, and it was amazing. Talking about looping back to what we were talking about paying people to help you. Well worth paying for editing. Such a good investment, not expensive, and incredibly useful. And I feel so much prouder of the final product and like marketing it to people, and asking to guest post on people's blogs and that sort of thing, knowing that the manuscript is professionally edited. So, yay, Kim!
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I wanted to talk about a food thing too, which is Oshi Glows. Did you guys read the Oshi Glows blog?
No.
Okay, so Oshi Glows is a blog. It's written by a woman named Angela Liddon. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but I think I am. And it's all vegan recipes. We are not vegan. We are like the opposite of vegan. We eat all kinds of everything. But so Angela has a really interesting story. She suffered for a long time with eating disorder. And then she kind of helped herself get healthy by learning to love to cook and eat delicious food, and became vegan and started this blog, Oshi Glows, to kind of document her journey toward health and cooking. And I first found it through a friend who recommended her a salad recipe that she had. I get tons of beets from our CSA. We have a CSA here that we've had for like 10 years. And every summer we're like deluged with beets. I don't know if they just grow really well in Massachusetts. I don't know what. But so she has this salad. It's a raw beet and carrot and apple salad. And it's delicious. You don't have to cook anything. You can make it for lunch super easy. So I've been making it for a couple of years. And now she has a cookbook out. It's called the Oshi Glows Cookbook, and it has 100 recipes. So I just got it. It has like 185 5-star reviews on Amazon. So I was like, okay, there's got to be something in here that's good. So it's all vegan. I had to buy a couple of things, honestly, that I didn't own, like flaxseed, chia seed, coconut oil. Okay, but I love food and I love cooking. So I was like, I'll just buy those. And they had them at Whole Foods. It was no big deal. And I made the soul-soothing African peanut stew from the Oshi Glows Cookbook 2 nights ago for dinner. 5-star rating from my family. We all loved it. It was delicious, healthy, and super good, not hard to make. The book is really beautifully done. I think 100 recipes in a book is a good deal. You get full bleed photos of every single dish, and it really makes cooking vegan food approachable, and it's helping us have more like meat-free dinners at my house. So I totally recommend it. I think it's great. Yeah.
I'm so going to order that.
Yeah. Oshi Glows.
Yeah. We're not vegan either, but we don't eat a lot of meat. I don't know. We just don't. But my husband loves to cook, so I buy him cookbooks.
Yeah, my husband loves to cook too. It's interesting, but we have really different approaches. So like, I'm more of kind of a freewheeling cooker, like add a little of this, it's okay, and he's very scientific. So we can't cook together because he's like making an omelet and he'll want to know like exactly how much butter to put in the pan. I'm like, just cut off some butter and put it in the pan. He's like, is it a teaspoon? Is it a teaspoon and a quarter? I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of the kitchen. So he cooks
like that too.
Yeah. He's like the scientist cooker and I'm the opposite. So he cooks with one of my daughters. And then so we kind of split it up, but I love it when he makes dinner. It's great. it turns out also if you follow recipes like that, your food comes out really well. So a lot of times his food comes out like better than mine because he does actually follow the recipe to the T. And I'm more like,
they have those recipes for a reason. What?
I know, right? Yeah. All right. So Rachel, we're back up to you, and you wanted to talk about an illustrator, and I don't know how to say her name. Well, her name is Denise Holmes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, it felt really exciting to be like, what is next? I don't think that's on the list. I felt like this anticipation of it's going to be something good. Yeah, so her website's called Nisi Made.
Okay. Oh, Nisi, like Denise. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So
okay.
Denise, if you're listening and I'm wrong, feel free to blast me. No. But she makes the most, I don't know. I'm such a sucker for like these adorable illustrations with just, there's something about the quality of the lines in her illustrations that I really like. Random, but when I didn't graduate college, but I went for 3 years for architecture, and I started at Virginia Tech. And I remember the first day I showed up to studio class, our teacher, that was the thing. We drew lines. That's what we did for like 4 hours, which is really kind of bizarre when I was not even 18 yet, and I'm in this different state, and I think this is going to be all fancy, right? And then you show up the first day and you draw lines for 4 hours, and you're a little like, wow, they've lost it. But I have a great appreciation for the line. But so there's something just about Denise's lines, and there's a playfulness to her illustrations. And I actually have a printable that I designed, that she did some illustrations for me for, that I also have sitting in a draft, blog post that will hopefully be up soon. But I think everyone should check her out. She's adorable, and she sells stuff on Etsy too. She just illustrated a book, and she's just got a lot of stuff going on, and it's just super adorable. I have a huge crush on her.
Yeah, I'm looking at her illustrations, and I'm like in this fantasy that she could draw my toys, and how amazing that would be. Like if we ever got a chance to do something like that.
That would be so cool.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, you should email her.
I know. I've always wanted to do something like that. I think because this style is just so whimsical and adorable and just modern at the same time. It's just perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for introducing me to her. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. All right, Kim. So, all right, this is a crochet thing. And actually, so these are the Addie crochet hooks. And when I had Gwen Bortner on the show, she recommended these Addie knitting needles, and it must be from the same company, obviously.
Yes, same company.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, so I'm gonna break the rules if I can break the rules. I'm gonna tell you briefly about the Addie hooks, and then I want to pretend like I had said something else for my third thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, the Addie hooks, yes, their Addie is ADDI, and they also make knitting needles, and they're nickel-plated metal hooks and needles. They are my favorite hook, in part because they have like a plastic handle that's a bit bigger than the hook itself. And when I first learned how to crochet ages ago, my grandmother came to town. She's a bit of a difficult woman, and I spent the weekend with her in my living room listening to her talk, and I crocheted myself into tendinitis, over 2 days. And, ended up in physical therapy, the whole thing. I got tennis elbow from crocheting. It was fascinating. The Addie hooks, so I enjoy having sort of a wider handle, but I mention them in the list because every time I post a photo of crochet work in progress and it has my hook in it, inevitably someone says, "Oh my God, where did you find that hook?" And so I'm just talking about it as much as I can. Addie hooks, they're distributed by Skicel. You should be able to find them in any local yarn store across the land. And I love them. I think that they're wonderful. And for as many people like me and Gwen who say they're the best, there are hundreds of people who say they suck. I like something else. So keep that in mind, but they are my favorite.
Okay.
And then, so I'm going to do a bait and switch and talk about crochet hooks, but then you're talking about illustration and my kind of banging my head against the wall because I was so serious and work-related in my list of things. And that I wanted to talk about like taking classes is the thing that I really want to say. Like, so this year, January 1st, I decided that I was going to kind of make something every day this year. And as just like a reminder to myself to keep in mind that making stuff is fun, right? When you work in crafts and the creative world, like making stuff is like work. And I wanted to just make sure that every day I made something just for the heck of making something. And the results of that one promise to myself have been so much fun. Like, I've done all sorts of things that I had never done before, one of which is doodling. Like, I've never done anything having to do with drawing.
I've been watching your doodles.
Have you?
Yes, they're adorable. I love them.
Thank
you.
Are you post them on Instagram?
I do.
Okay.
I post everything on, like, so every day I post something hashtagged year of making.
Got it.
And it's actually a friend and colleague of mine named Miriam Felton. She's a knitwear designer. Last year, she embarked upon a year of making, and I loved following her year of making. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm inspired by her, except in, no rules. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to make a particular thing. I hate cooking, unlike you guys. And so I was like, you know what? If I make dinner, that counts as year of making. And over the course of this year so far, and we're not even halfway through the year, I've made all sorts of things that I had never made before. And my interest in doodling sort of coincidentally with the launch of Lisa Congdon's line drawing class on Creative Bug. And she's amazing. I find her to be almost painfully inspiring because she's so honest about her work and her life and how, sort of like her ups and her downs and her struggles and her successes. And so that she in particular was teaching a class about exactly the thing that I was starting to be interested in kind of blew my mind. And I still haven't even finished taking the class because I've been so hung up just doing all sorts of other things. But
I haven't either. I can't like handle that much inspiration all at once or something. Like, I need to space it out. It's so good.
Well, that's it. Like, I've watched 2 of the 4 lessons in her class, and I ended watching the second one like a month ago or longer. And eventually I'll go back to it. But I'm also a big fan of an artist and an author named Austin Kleon, who wrote a book called Steal Like an Artist. And but like I was fairly open earlier about how intimidated I felt those years ago before I started Mighty Ugly about making that doll. That intimidation I find goes away when I allow myself to copy what someone else has done. Not copy it for profit, not copy it to sell it, not copy it necessarily even to show someone else, but like as a starting point for doing something that I just don't feel I know enough about to do on my own. And oh my God, how liberating it is when you allow yourself not to have to be original all the time, but just to say, oh, wow. And so what I love about Lisa Congdon's line drawing class is that it's essentially a guided practice in copying her. And I think her work is amazing, but she also makes it very accessible. And so her class is permission to copy her, and I love it. And it's great. And so that's copying. Yay.
Yeah, well, and I think it speaks to sort of following a pattern. Sometimes especially when you design patterns for a living, you always feel like every project you have to come up with from scratch, and there's just something so sort of relaxing and wonderful about just buying somebody else's pattern and just doing that, or like following a pattern from a book. It's just so great sometimes,
Well, and that's it too when you take a class. So I'm also in the middle right now of taking a class. I'm sewing my very first dress. And I, like every woman on the planet, I'm not the same size on my top and my bottom. And so one of the things I was really excited about for this class was that there will be a teacher in the room, and there is a teacher in the room. And she, guided me through making the small size of the dress on top, like grade into the large size of the dress on the bottom in order to make it, like, I could have stared at that for hours and hours and not felt comfortable cutting the fabric if I were doing it in my own house, because I don't have the experience or the skills to do that with knowledge. But being in a classroom with a teacher, now that's done. Now I have this pattern that's graded to myself, and I feel like I have that starting point that, okay, I'm going to make a few more of these dresses, I think, and eventually I'll feel comfortable in the knowledge that I have of this dress to learn more about pattern sizing so that I can alter patterns for myself without someone else's help moving down the line. But it's like, classes. They're so useful.
Absolutely. Seriously, go ahead and take some. I'm a big fan. Craftsy, Creative Bug, Linda, there's lots of places to do it online. Creative Live now is also awesome. There's just so much you can learn, and you can do it at home if you have kids and you can't get out. It's just, I think it's fantastic. It's one of the best things about the way the internet is now. It's just, I think it's really great. So,
and in person too. I'm taking this dress class at a local sewing shop, and it's fantastic.
Even better. Yeah, totally. Even better. Support your local shop and local instructors too. All right, guys. Well, we are pushing to an hour, so I think we're going to wrap up. But this has been fantastic, and I know that there are some awesome things that we didn't get to on our list. So maybe you'll come back on, and we can get to those things at a later time, because I really wanted to hear about those too.
That'd be awesome.
I would totally be up for that.
Okay, super. Well, thank you so much for sharing these picks with me. And Kim, where can we find you online?
At kimwerker.com. And my name is spelled Werker.
Super. Okay, great. And Rachel, where can we find you?
You can find me at imaginegnats.com, like the bug, gnat.
Right, .com. Okay, super. And this has been the Wall Street Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. You can find me on my blog, wallstreetnaps.com. And if you have suggestions for future shows, I'd love to hear them. Send me an email or connect with me on Twitter or Facebook. And you'll find all my links on my blog. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.